Welcome to The Build Up, presented by the Florida Home Builders Association. It's where policy, housing, and the future of Florida's building industry come together. Now here are your hosts, Ryan Benson and John Riddle.
Welcome to another episode of The Build Up. I'm your host, Ryan Benson, co-owner of Avern and Allen Builder in Naples. And along with me,
I'm John Riddle, attorney Leaf Custom Homes. We build homes throughout Central Florida.
and with us, a friend of mine we're happy to have here, and our representative from Naples. For the introduction, everyone gets your name wrong. Would you please tell everyone how to say your last name properly?
Yes. Representative Yvette Benarroch.
Benarroch.
Yes,
Thank you.
you got
That's what I said.
Ryan had it.
I had it right. And so I said, I'm going to clarify it. I'm going to clarify it on the air. So let's start with before politics. You're not a typical politician. You served in the armed forces for us.
Air Force.
Air Force.
Go Air Force.
So tell us about your background before you got to Tallahassee, and then we'll get into how you ended up here.
Yeah, so politics was not even in my book, to be quite honest with you. So I served in the military, U.S. Air Force, during the first Gulf War. I was in the intelligence field. I copied Morse code during the war. I was stationed in England. And then after that, in 2003, I moved to the United States of America, actually Florida. Naples, to be quite honest, not sure why, because we Puerto Ricans tend to go to Orlando. But I ended up in Naples. I had one cousin there, and I met my wonderful husband, and so I never made it to Orlando, and I made Naples my home. We currently live in Marco Island with my two sons, a 20-year-old and 18-year-old, and my 4 dogs, golden retrievers. Before politics, normal life, a mom, a small business owner, and I volunteer a lot for a lot of politicians in the Republican Party, Senator Scott, Senator Rubio, Governor DeSantis, President Trump, and our next governor, Congressman Byron Donalds. And so I was more like an activist, right? I would come up here with different groups, and always, my community's always been a number one for me. So I like serving. And then when this opportunity came about, I said, a lot of people cannot relate to our struggles and our issues, like small business owners, as parents, taxpayers. So then I said, I need to run for office. And Congressman Byron Donalds endorsed me right out of the gate. And that was important because I don't have millions of dollars in my bank account. So a good endorsement helped me, at the beginning of my race.
Did you try and get the endorsements and support before you announced, or were there people that helped you make the decision to actually run, said, you're crazy, don't do it, and you said, yes, I'm doubling down now? Like, well, what was that part like?
To be quite honest, I called Byron. He's a friend. And I said, hey, do you think that I'd be good for this position? I've always liked state policy. And he said, oh my God, I couldn't think of anyone better. I said, well, would you be willing to put your name behind me? He says, yes. And so that made me decide to run, of course, after I talked to my family, because in politics, it takes endorsements and money, and of course, hard work to make it. So I knew I had the good endorsement. I know I worked very hard. And so the money I didn't have, but I knew I could raise enough to help me do what I needed to do. And that's exactly how I won my race.
Was there a specific moment that helped engage you to make that call to Congressman Donalds? Was there something that happened, an issue that popped up, something happened in your home area, something you were an activist for that said, okay, I'm definitely going to be into this ring now?
So to be honest, I was talking to someone and they said, Bob Ramos turned me down. And I haven't heard of anyone running for that position or anybody, backing anyone. And I said, maybe that's the calling that I am meant to be in, because to be honest, I ended up in politics by chance. I saw a lot of things that I thought were going wrong, and that's why I moved to Florida, because I saw them in Puerto Rico. And so I told my husband, I need to be more involved in politics because it touches every aspect of your life.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And so when I heard the person say that, I'm like, I'm going to make a phone call, because if nobody's interested in the position, I am. And so I made the phone call, and it just worked out.
And it was a tougher race. There was a formidable opponent, and they were well heeled. So during the whole campaign process and actually running that and raising money, was there any time where you regretted doing it, or did it just give you stronger drive to do it more? Or, what was that part like?
I've never regretted anything I've done in my life. I've always said I'd rather know than guess what would have happened. My opponent was very wealthy, is very wealthy. So that's mainly what I was going against. He wasn't part of my community for too long. I've been there 23 years. I know my district very well. He was not involved in politics except when he got appointed to council in the last few years. So I knew I had an advantage there. The money part was the one
Yeah.
that always concerned me. But to be honest with you, I never worried about it because I said money will come. I'd rather knock on those doors, make sure people understand that I will be the one that's going to be doing the work on their behalf and that I can relate to everyday issues, and he couldn't. So,
Well, you yourself are a business owner, correct?
yes.
And what business are you in?
So I own a full service landscaping company.
Okay.
Yes. So,
So very relatable to our home building industry.
yes.
What issues does the state currently face that you think are the most important to address now?
Most important, even when I ran, is affordability. That is the number one issue. That was the number one issue when I ran in my primary. It's still the number
Still
one
is.
issue for the whole state, not only in my county. But we're all dealing with affordability. And I think that's the issue. It's not an easy one to tackle because it has a lot of parts and components to it. But I think we're trying to make sure that we address that.
So part of our process while we're up here, Ryan and I and the rest of us up here visiting Tallahassee this week, is to talk about the issues that are our home builders and association issues. One of them, one of our top tier ones, is a building permitting process. I'm sure you're familiar with the obstacles we have and what we're trying to accomplish with this legislation. I'd like your insight or input on that.
Yes. So interesting enough, part of the reason why I ran for office was because I have to deal with those issues every day.
Yeah.
Because of my business. So not many people up here can relate, but I can. So when I came up here, I said, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that we streamline the process and we make it easier for people to be able to do their work.
Oh, perfect. So since you've been in office, what's the coolest moment, coolest experience you've had from being here? Was it somewhere you went? Was it an event? Was it a moment where you walked into the House chamber? What is it?
Well, that's what I would say, that the moment when I walked into the House chambers and I got sworn in last year, and my husband was there to see it, and my son was probably the most amazing thing in my life, to be quite honest, because, when I came to this country, I came with literally nothing. Like, I came with my clothes and a cousin in Naples, no job, no money, no expectations. But I knew this country would give me the opportunity if I worked really hard to make my dreams come true, and never imagined that I'd be now in the Florida House representing my district. And to be honest with you, a lot of people never thought that I could win because, not only I don't look like a lot of people in my district, but they knew I was the best person to represent them. And I think that's what makes this country great, is that people don't look at your color or your accent. They look at you as a person and who the best person to represent. And I'm an example of that. So that day was like, wow, like it really hit me because it hadn't hit me yet. So that's probably the coolest moment when I raised my hand and they swore me in.
You brought it up before. We have our congressman who's running for the governor's seat, and we have a vacating congressional seat. Are you endorsing or supporting anyone for vacant congressional seat?
I am staying out of that race.
Okay.
What I would hope is that the voters choose someone that is from the area,
Yes,
that
please.
understands our issues, because Southwest Florida, we've been very blessed with our delegations because all of us are from the area, so we understand our area very well. So that's my hope, that the next person would be somebody that's been there, that understands the issues, and that goes up there to get some work done.
What has going back to now, you've got a year under your belt now as a representative?
Yes.
Okay. So you got 1 year under your belt, and you came in from a background of being hugely involved in your community and really bringing the issues that affect your community to the forefront. What has surprised you most about the legislative process?
So, something surprising to me is how well we all get along. Because even with those on the other side of the aisle, Things are different here than what you see happening in Washington, D.C. We do try to work together. There's issues that we're never going to agree on because that's always the 10%. The 90% of the issues we work through. And so that's one thing that surprised me, how everybody gets along and how, for the most part, people are respectful.
Okay. Well, that's helpful for us, right? With home building industry, we're not an R or a D issue, we're an H issue. So we need both sides of the aisle to understand what's happening, and we would trust in that your professionalism and your commitment to your community would help guide you in helping our industry move forward.
Yes, I agree totally. And like I said, 90% of the issues are nonpartisan issues, and then we'll just agree to disagree on the 10%. Very respectfully.
And I have one more question, which is very easy one, although it could be the most difficult. What is your favorite restaurant in back home in your home district, either Marco or Naples? And what's your favorite restaurant in Tallahassee?
You know, I don't have a favorite one, unfortunately, because I love to cook at home.
Oh, that was Blaze's answer too. Okay.
So
Listen to him.
my kids have allergies, so we've never been much of going out, and they love my cooking. And
What's your favorite thing to cook then?
I love steak, a good steak. I'm going on the rare side, to be honest with you. I started medium and then medium rare. Now I'm on the rare, but I love a good steak. Yes.
And do you get to cook while you're up here?
Oh,
Or
rarely, because that's one thing that with our busy schedules, by the time I get home, if I buy a steak, I cut it in half, do one half one night, another half.
Yeah.
And then I'll eat that with a vegetable, and that's enough.
Yeah, well, that's okay.
Yes.
Good answer. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This is another episode of The Build Up, broadcasting still from the Senate office building, meeting a lot of our amazing senators, statewide politicians, and representatives. Thank you again to Representative Yvette Benarroch for joining us. I'm your host, Ryan Benson. This is my co-host, John Riddle. And until next time, we'll see you then.
And that's a wrap on this episode of The Build Up, presented by the Florida Home Builders Association. Thanks for listening.